Hi, everyone. Welcome again to Ivy English. I'm Bruce.
I'm Angela.
And I'm Wesley.
Oh, today's the 18th. We're still in the New Year, the Lunar New Year period. It's coming to an end soon. Aww. Because we're having such a good time every year during the Lunar New Year here in Taiwan.
It's called living your life instead of running around making money.
Or studying until your eyes hurt. Anyway, today let's take a look at this, Pretty in Paisley.
好，我们的中文标题是经典花纹佩斯利。好，那 Paisley 就是那个佩斯利。
I will read through the whole, I was going to say paragraph, the whole article for you first, and then the three of us will go back and redo what I read sentence by sentence. Paisley is a distinctive pattern used to decorate fabrics and liven up countless outfits. This pattern also has a uniquely rich history dating back hundreds of years and spanning multiple continents. Paisley's most obvious feature is the large swooshing shapes called bota or buta. Many experts believe this shape is actually a stylized cypress tree, which was a powerful religious symbol in India and Iran for thousands of years. Besides being a cypress tree, the pattern could also represent flowers, the sun, a phoenix, or even an eagle. The exact meaning is lost to history, even though the pattern lives on. The textile pattern eventually made its way to the Western world in the 18th and 19th centuries, when it became the height of fashion for the time. Silk scarves bearing the pattern could be as expensive as a small house. Given its popularity, especially in Great Britain, it was quickly duplicated and mass-produced. One of the major manufacturing centers of the pattern was Paisley, Scotland, which is how the pattern got its English name. In the early 20th century, the popularity of the pattern faded for a time. Eventually, it exploded back onto the fashion scene with the help of a surprising force, rock and roll. It started in the 1960s with the Beatles, who not only wore Paisley, but used the patterns in colorful artwork. Other rock legends like the Rolling Stones, Janis Joplin, and David Bowie kept the trend going well into the 1970s. Paisley was suddenly cool and glamorous again, at least temporarily. Since then, however, the popularity of the pattern has slowly declined. It still pops up on fashion runways and as a colorful accessory for some outfits, but Paisley is, once again, just one of many stylish patterns. Nevertheless, that doesn't mean it won't make a comeback again.
Okay, so Paisley is a distinctive pattern. By distinctive, we mean very recognizable. And it's used to decorate fabrics, to make fabrics more beautiful, and liven up countless outfits. If you liven up an outfit, you make the outfit seem more attractive or interesting.
好，所以 Paisley 是个怎么样？是个 distinctive， 就是独特的哈 ，very recognizable， 很容易就认出来的一种 pattern。然后 used to 就是 which is used to 哈，它被用来干嘛呢 ？decorate 装饰 ，fabrics 就是织物哈，用的布啊什么的哈，织出来的东西啊叫 fabrics。那它可以怎么样？它可以 liven up 就是使它生动活泼哈 ，to make lively 或者 make something more interesting or exciting， 所以它可以让什么东西看起来更生动活泼呢？让 countless 就是数不尽的 outfits 是衣服哈，但它通常指一套一套的衣服 ，a set of clothes， 而且这个通常是这个为了某一个特定的 occasion 或者是某一个 purpose， 好，所以例如说你上班的那个套装啊，那就是一种 outfit。
This pattern,Of course, we mean Paisley, also has a uniquely rich history. Its history is different from any other pattern, dating back hundreds of years and spanning multiple continents. So it has a rich history. It has a very long history in which Paisley has been used scanning multiple continents, used on more than one, 2 or more continents. So this is a large area where people have seen and drawn and used the pattern Paisley.
好，所以呢 this pattern 就是这个图案 Paisley 这个图案呢，它也有一个 uniquely 就是很独特的 rich history 就是丰富的历史。好，所以它的历史也是非常丰富而且很独特的一个丰富历史。那这个历史是怎么样？Dating back 就是可以追溯后面直接加多少年 Dating back hundreds of years 可以追溯到过去几百年同时呢 and spanning 为什么是 ing 呢？这个 spanning 跟那个 dating 那个 ing 都是分词那用 and 来连接。那 span 就是跨越to extend across extend 好，所以它跨越，它可以追溯到历史追溯到好几百年，然后呢它的这个影响范围呢，可以跨越 multiple， 就是 many， 跨越很多个大陆continents。
Paisley's most obvious feature is the large swooshing shapes called botte or buta. If something is swooshing, a very good example would be the Nike swoosh, that sort of checkmark flying shape. Anything that gives you a sense of motion is a swooshing shape. And the botte or buta, I never knew there was a name for these Paisley swoosh shapes. I always think of them as the amoeba. They look like an amoeba to me.
阿米巴原虫那看起来很像所以这人想说原来这个有名字的他以前都称那个图案叫做这个阿米巴。好，那我们可以看到这个句子，他说的这个 Paisley 它的这个最 obvious 最明显的一个 feature 一个特征是 the large 是很大的那个swooshing shapes 就是这个涡旋形的这个形状像那个很有名的那个鞋子Nike 它的那个商标那个就是用 swoosh 那这个地方 swooshing 你可以把它解释成为 swirling 这个 swirling 那其实就是很快的咻这样过去那种声，这个也跟声音很像所以跟那种这个涡旋的形状，那它这种形状称为怎么样？称为 botte 或者是 buta。
Many experts believe this shape, the Paisley shape or pattern, is actually a stylized cypress tree. If something is stylized, it's a drawing or painting of something, but just the outlines of it. It's not trying to be like a photograph. It gives you an idea of something. It's not the original visual stimulus, though. The stylized cypress tree was a powerful religious symbol in India and Iran for thousands of years, going back to the old Hindu religion and then into Buddhism. And in Iran, the Zoroastrians, I can't even pronounce it, the sun worshippers.
Yes.
好，所以呢我们可以看到说很多的专家认为 believe 这个 shape 这个形状呢 is actually 事实上是一个 stylized cypress tree cypress tree 就是柏树。那 stylize 是什么意思呢？如果你 stylize something 就是怎么样，你这个去 represent 这个东西，但是不是怎么样，不是以它的 natural 的方式来 represent 所以 stylize means it's not natural 那 in order 为目的是要 in order to create 你要create 一个 artistic effect， 所以是一个艺术化的表现，也就是非写实的一个表现所以它是柏树，可是你看不出来它是柏树，因为它被 stylized， 它是这种艺术化的表现。好，那这个柏树呢 which 就是指这个柏树，它是个 powerful 是个强大的 religious symbol 是个强大的宗教上的象征in India and Iran 那 for thousands of years 在印度在伊朗已经有数千年的历史都是一个这个柏树是一个强大的 symbol。Besides
being a cypress tree, the pattern could also represent flowers, the sun, a phoenix, or even an eagle. I recommend you look up cypress tree patterns on Google and see all the cool, beautiful stylized images that come out.
好，所以其实这个到底这个图像是什么样的？这个或者像这个 stylized cypress tree 大家可以去 Google 一下它这个就可以看到它是什么样子的。那看到这个句子，他说除了 besides 除了是 being， 因为 besides 是介系词嘛，所以后面要有动名词。除了它是一个这个cypress tree 之外呢，那这个 pattern 它也可以 represent 代表花、太阳、凤凰，甚至它可以代表一只 eagle。The
exact meaning or the exact source of this symbol is lost to history. We don't know how it began, even though the pattern lives on. We can find examples of paintings, drawings from even thousands of years ago that had the Paisley pattern, but we really don't know exactly where it began or what it was supposed to be.
好，那这个句子有两个很值得大家注意的用法。第一个，我们先看这个句子，他说 the exact meaning， 这确切的意义。好，那第一个我们要注意的是 is lost to history。好。Something is lost to history， 就是它已经随着历史而逝去，也就是这个 lost， 其实你可以把它解释成为 cannot be recovered， 或者是is no longer accessible， 就是你在历史里面你已经找不到了找不到这个东西它原来的原意是什么了所以大家可以记得这个用法。那另外呢 even though the pattern， 这个虽然说这个图案呢 lives on， 这是第二个大家可以学的something lives on 就是怎么样something live on， 或者这个 to live on 就是 to continue to exist， 持续的存在例如说我们常常讲某人他也许过世了，但是他的 legend lives on， 他的传奇或者他的这个传承还是继续持续下去。
So the textile pattern eventually made its way to the Western world in the 18th and 19th centuries. And this is because the center of textile industry was being made to be England, the British Isles, by hook or by crook. So pattern making sort of gravitated also to the British Isles at this time. And so during this time, Paisley became the height of fashion for the time.
好，所以刚才学长讲说这之所以这个 fashion 的 center 会跑到欧洲去呢，其实是这个有一点不择手段想尽办法就这个威胁利诱之类的，就最后这个中心就移到欧洲，跑到英国去了。那我们可以看到这个句子，他说 the textile 就是纺织品的 pattern 的图案呢 eventually 最后finally 经过一段很长时间之后，最后终于怎么样呢 made its way to 就是传到了哪里慢慢的进入到哪里，它终于传到了 the Western world， 终于传到了西方世界在这个18、19世纪的时候，那 when 就指在这个时候呢 it 就指这个 pattern 这个图案呢 became 变成了 the height of fashion 那这个 height 在这里呢其实就指这个最高最极致的就是一个 extreme example 或者你可以说是个这个尖端 summit SUMMIT 那所以当你讲 the height of fashion 就是指这个fashion 最高的一个表现或者最高的一个 example 那 height 这个是 the height of something 我在字典上看到一个很有趣的例子it was the height of stupidity
Yes, that's my favorite
to do something 就是这是笨到极点了it was the height of stupidity to do something 所以 it was the height of the stupidity to quit the team 他居然 quit the team 他居然退队了不参加了，这真是笨到极点所以 the height of stupidity 这 I like that phrase
It's good
Yeah 那不过在这里我们也可以
He hears it a lot
I use it a lot Yeah Yeah to refer to my No 好，所以呢 the height of fashion 就是时装的极致那接下来 for the time 这个片语大家可以注意一下 for the time 就是指以当时的标准以当时的这个taste 来讲它可以说是这个时装的时髦的极致for the time 就是指以当时的情况来讲
So this height of fashion, the summit, the peak of this interest in Paisley, we give an example of this. Silk scarves, we're still talking about Great Britain. Silk scarves, now silk was an import for the British Isles, so it was already expensive. But scarves had been made of wool, but if you had one of silk, then you were more fashionable than others. Bearing the pattern means that the scarves had drawings or pictures of Paisley on them. Get this, could be as expensive as a small house. To buy a silk scarf, you could also buy what we would probably call today an apartment.
好，所以 silk scarves 就是丝巾silk 就是丝。那 bearing the pattern bear 就是 have 就有这样子的 pattern， 有这样的图案的这个丝巾呢，可以 as expensive as 跟什么一样贵呢？跟一个 small house 跟一个小小的房子一样的贵。换句话说，这种时候那个时候当时这种有这种图案的丝巾非常的贵。
Given its popularity, or because of its popularity, especially in Great Britain, it was quickly duplicated and mass-produced. Anything that was fashionable and expensive could be made more cheaply and sold to everyone else who also wanted it.
Given 就是由于或者考虑到由于它的 popularity 很受欢迎尤其在这个英国所以呢 it was quickly 很快的就被 duplicated 就被 copied 被这个仿造了或者是被复制了它 duplicate 这个字原来意思是复制了很快的被复制了然后呢被 mass produced 被大量制造。
One of the major manufacturing centers of the pattern was Paisley, Scotland. Aha! Now we know how it got its English name. Scotland and the Midlands of England, these were the great manufacturing factory centers in the 18th and 19th centuries. And they took the name of the town, you can see dash at a P here, capital P, with the comma, and then Scotland, so it shows us it is a geographic place name. And that's how we named, in English, this pattern.
好，那这个主要的 manufacturing centers 就是制造中心好，所以这个图案的主要制造中心之一就是苏格兰的这个 Paisley 那 which 就是前面这整个子句，也就是说因为主要制造中心其中之一就是在 Paisley， 所以呢 which is how， 所以 the pattern 这个图案就是这样子got its English name 得到它英文的名字got its name 的得名，所以就是因为这样子，所以它的英文名字叫做 Paisley。In
the early 20th century, the popularity of the pattern faded for a time. People got interested in different kinds of fabrics, and silk scarves seemed old-fashioned.
Fade 就是褪色或者消退，所以在20世纪这个初年呢，这个图案它的受喜爱的程度呢 faded。For a time 就是 for a while， 所以20世纪初年有一段时间呢，这个图案呢，它的这个受喜爱的程度褪色了，它消退了。
Eventually, sometime later, it exploded back onto the fashion scene. Once again, it suddenly became very popular with the help of a surprising force. We might expect that great artists or great what do you call them? People who design clothing designers, would be behind this sudden interest and popularity in Paisley. But no, it was rock and roll.
好，所以 eventually 就是 in the end， 那通常是经过很长的时间之后呢，它 exploded back onto the fashion scene。好，那这个 explode 这个字本来是爆炸的意思但是 explode 它可以用来形容一个to move with sudden speed and force 那这个也是有一个很有趣的一个大家一讲大家想到那个画面，就是赛马的时候那个枪声一响，那个马就从那个 starting gate 冲出来，那个就可以用 explode 所以 exploded from the starting gate 那个就是那种感觉，突然轰这样冲出来。那这里就是说它突然间轰这个突然之间很快的又回到了这个时装的这个场域里面，也就是变得流行了。那但是这是透过一个 surprising force， 一个出乎意料的力量，帮助它回到这个时装的流行。那什么力量呢？就是 rock and roll。It
started in the 1960s with the Beatles, who not only wore Paisley, but used the patterns in colorful artwork. They also notably spent some time in India.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, 所以这个 Beatles 他们也曾经在这个印度待过一段时间所以他们大概很喜欢这种花纹。所以 it started 就它怎么样这个再度流行呢？是在1960年代这个 The Beatles 式合唱团那由他们开始让它这种又开始流行了。那 Beatles 怎么样？他们不但是会穿着有 Paisley 的这个图案的衣服，而且用这个图案呢，在 colorful 在一些色彩很鲜艳的 artwork 一些 artistic work 上面那这个地方这个use the patterns 它加了 s， 因为这里大概就只是这一类的图案，它不是特别是某一个，就这一类的图案好多图案。
Other rock legends, not only the Beatles, but other very popular rock and roll famous people like the Rolling Stones. I saw them twice. Janis Joplin, I saw her once.
Nice.
And David Bowie, I saw him twice. They're just great artists, musical artists. They kept the trend going because they used or wore Paisley in their clothing or art designs. It became popular among a lot of people, and so more and more people designed things with Paisley or bought things with Paisley.
I had a Paisley jumper that I loved to pieces.
所以这个 Bruce 老师、Angel 老师他们都蛮喜欢这个花纹的哈。那我们可以看到这个他们讲说这个有其他的 rock legends， 就是一些传奇性的摇滚乐的人物哈，或者摇滚的传奇人物。legend 可以是传奇，也可以指传奇人物，像这个底下这些都非常有名的哈，这个滚石啊哈，还有这个Janis Joplin 哈，还有 David Bowie 都是非常有名的天王级的巨星。那他们怎么样 kept the trend going 好 to keep something going 就是让这东西继续下去，持续下去啊。那 well into 就是 far into 哈，所以 well into the 1970s. When we say well into the 1970s,
that means it went as long as 1978, 79.
Yeah, I agree.
所以当我们讲 well into the 1970s 大概可能持续到1978、1979年那个时候了哈，所以那个叫做 well into.
Now, Paisley was suddenly cool and glamorous again, at least temporarily. And then in the 80s, it went deeply out of fashion because it was the 70s. But now that the 70s are cool again, like the 70s became cool again in the 90s, and now the 90s are cool, which means that echoes of the 70s are also again cool. So looking at this article, the fact that this article exists is making me think that someone's trying to bring Paisley back.
Yeah, probably. 好，所以我们可以看到说这个Paisley 呢这个突然之间又变得很酷又变得 glamorous 就是很有魅力哈，因为 glamour G-L-A-M-O-R 就是魅力或者吸引力，它突然间又变得很有魅力很酷了，那至少是 temporarily 至少暂时的它又变得很有魅力了。
Since then, however, popularity of the pattern has slowly declined. Now that's suggested already by the last part of the previous sentence, at least temporarily. It was hot, it was fashionable, it was cool, at least temporarily, gives us the idea, well, that's not going to last all that long, and the next sentence, that's what it means.
好，那从那个时候呢，之后这个 pattern 它的 popularity 好像又慢慢的 slowly decline， 就是慢慢的消退了，慢慢减少衰弱了。
It still pops up on fashion runways and as a colorful accessory for some outfits, but Paisley is once again just one of many stylish patterns.
好，所以我们看到说这个他讲到说这 it still 仍然会 pops up 就是突然间冒出来哈 suddenly appear 哈。那 on fashion runways 就是这个在时装的 runway 伸展台上面哈。然后呢这个 and as a colorful accessory 它仍然它会出现以什么样的形式出现呢？一个 colorful 色彩鲜艳的一个 accessory 配件好 for some outfits 但是呢这个 Paisley is once again 再一次的它只是 one of many 很多的 stylish 很时髦的 patterns 之中的一个所以它不是一个 dominant 不是一个最流行的东西。
Nevertheless, despite what we just said, that doesn't mean it won't make a comeback again.Paisley has been around for thousands of years. Sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's not, but it will probably continue.
It's always colorful.
Yeah, 好，所以这个地方讲到 make a comeback， 注意有一个 a 就是卷土重来，或者它可以表示再度流行就这两个最主要的意思。那在这里就再度流行，所以 that doesn't mean 所以虽然它现在又不是它只是流行之一了，但是那并不表示说它以后不会再卷土重来，不会再度流行。
Okay, we have some questions here for you. Number one is, according to the passage, what are bota or buta?
根据本文，什么是这个 bota 或者 buta?
The answer is B, the main shape, the amoeba shape, found in Paisley.
所以答案是 B 它是一种这个 Paisley 上面的一个主要的形状。
Our second question, why is it significant that the passage mentions Paisley scarves costing the same as a small house?
好，本文提到这个 Paisley scarf 它的价格跟一个小房子一样贵，那为什么这件事情很重要呢？
Well, I like the answer A, but the one they want is C. It shows how incredibly popular the pattern was.
答案是 C 啊，它可以显示该图案是极度受到欢迎，所以大家愿意花那么多的钱去买。
Number 3, what can we infer about the rock and roll stars mentioned in the 4th paragraph?
好，我们可以在第4段提到的摇滚明星当中推论出什么呢？
The answer is C. They are all considered or were considered cool and glamorous.
好，我们可以推论出来答案是 C 啊，这些 stars 都被认为又酷又迷人。
Number 4, which of the following is not true about Paisley?
底下哪一项关于 Paisley 的叙述是不正确的？
Okay, the answer is A. It has vanished completely from the fashion world.
答案是 A 啊，因为 A 说它已经完全从时装界消失了，这是错的。
Okay, that's it for today's program. Join us whenever you can. We're right here for you.